He went from YouTube clips to factory gates. Now Haiden Deegan's stepping into the 450s, and the pressure's insane. Haiden Deegan didn't earn his seat on a factory 450. He inherited the spotlight before he could ride one. Born to Brian Deegan, the godfather of freestyle chaos and metal militia's architect, Haiden grew up with cameras in his face and expectations most riders never touch. By the time he lined up for his first amateur national, he was not just another kid on a KTM. He was content. His Instagram posts got more engagement than some pro riders' podiums. His YouTube channel turned practice laps into episodes. He built a fan base before he built a resume, and that changes everything about how pressure works in this sport. Most riders chase attention after they win. Haiden had it before his first gate drop, and that flipped the entire development curve. He learned to race under a microscope, every hole shot analyzed, every mistake clipped and commented on, every setup choice dissected by thousands of people who think they know better. That's not normal. Most amateurs get to fail quietly, adjust, and come back stronger without the internet keeping score. Haiden never had that luxury. He had to be fast and media-ready simultaneously, which means his racecraft and his brand matured in parallel. His 250 run proved the hype was not just Instagram smoke. He rode angry, committed, and loose, the kind of style that makes highlight reels, but also ends in crashes if you're not talented enough to pull it off. Haiden was talented enough. He won races, yes, but more importantly, he won moments. That last lap block pass at Hangtown, that whip over the finish line at Redbud, that post-race interview where he didn't play the humble card. He owned the win, and the attitude fans ate it up because it felt real in a sport where most riders sound like they're reading teleprompter lines written by PR teams. Haiden talks like a rider, posts like a rider, and races like someone who knows the camera's always rolling. That authenticity, or at least the appearance of it, became his edge off the track, and it translated into leverage with sponsors, team negotiations, and his growing empire outside racing. But the 250 class is a controlled environment compared to what the 450 demands. The mechanical jump is violent. A 450 Supercross bike makes around 58 horsepower compared to a 250's 45, but it's not just peak power that matters, it's how that power hits. The 450 pulls harder out of corners, which sounds like an advantage, until you realize it also breaks traction faster, especially on slick Supercross dirt. Throttle control becomes surgical. You can't just pin it and hope the rear tire hooks. You have to manage the clutch, read the ruts, and modulate mid-corner, or you'll spin, step out, or wash the front when the bike unloads. The weight difference compounds this. A 450 sits around 235 pounds, ready to race compared to a 250's 220. And that extra 15 pounds changes how the bike pitches into jumps, how it settles in whoops, and how much strength it takes to muscle it through a rhythm section when you're tired. The bike doesn't forgive mistakes the way a 250 does. It punishes hesitation and rewards commitment, which means Haiden's aggressive style either scales up beautifully or gets him hurt. The physical toll is exponentially higher. A 250 Supercross main is 15 minutes plus 1 lap, manageable if you're fit. A 450 main is 20 minutes plus 1 lap, and those extra 5 minutes don't sound like much until you're 10 laps deep, your arms are pumping, and the bike's trying to rip the bars out of your hands every time you land. Endurance becomes the silent killer. Riders who dominated on 200s and 50s have fallen apart in their first 400s and 50s season. Haiden's young, which helps, but youth doesn't replace the specific conditioning required to wrestle a 450 for a full main event without fading. He'll need to adjust his training, more grip strength, more cardiovascular capacity, more recovery protocols, or he'll lose positions in the final 5 laps no matter how fast he starts. Mentally, the 450 class strips away the margin for error. On a 250, you can make a mistake, regroup, and charge back through the pack because the talent gap between riders is wider. The 450 class is stacked with veterans who've spent years refining racecraft, learning block pass counters, and knowing exactly when to defend versus when to concede a spot and save energy. Haiden's entering a field where Jet and Hunter Lawrence, Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, Ken Roxon, and Chase Sexton are not just faster, they're smarter, meaner, and less impressed by his social media numbers. They'll test him, force him into bad lines, and punish mistakes without hesitation. If Haiden rides emotionally, if he tries to force passes because he knows his fans expect highlights, he'll crash. The 450 class doesn't reward spectacle, it rewards calculated aggression. And that's a different skill set. And then there's the fame layer, which most riders never deal with at this level. Haiden's not just racing for points, he's racing for content. Every weekend is a potential YouTube episode, an Instagram story series, a brand moment. That's income, sure, but it's also obligation. He has to perform on the track and perform for the camera, and those goals don't always align. A fifth-place finish is respectable in racing terms, but doesn't generate the viral engagement a podium does. A crash is a learning experience on the track, but a comment section disaster online. He's managing two audiences: the race fans who care about championship points, and the social media followers who care about personality and drama. That split focus can erode race day clarity if he's not disciplined about compartmentalizing. Compare that to Jet Lawrence's trajectory. Jet came up through the traditional factory pipeline. Honda spotted him early, moved him to the States, put him in the amateur system, and let him develop without the social media circus. He built his brand after proving he could win, not before. That meant less pressure early, more room to fail quietly, and a singular focus on racecraft. By the time Jet hit the 450 class, he was already a multi-time 250 champion with zero distractions. His Instagram exists, but it's not his identity. Racing is. Heiden's model is the inverse. He built the brand first, and now he's trying to validate it with results at the highest level. That's not a weakness, but it's a different kind of pressure. Jet races to win, Haiden races to win and maintain an empire. The business side of Deegan is undeniable. His YouTube channel generates multiple-figure revenue annually. His Instagram partnerships with energy drinks, gear companies, and lifestyle brands pay more than some privateers make in prize money. His merchandise line moves units because fans see him as a personality, not just a number on a starting gate. Yamaha signed him because they needed both. They need wins to stay relevant in Supercross, but they also need cultural cash, and Haiden delivers that. He makes Yamaha feel young, aggressive, and modern. Three things the brand desperately wants to project, but Yamaha also needs podiums. And if Heiden's spending mental energy managing his social media empire instead of focusing on suspension setup and race simulation, that's a problem. The balance between brand building and racecraft is fragile, and Heiden's the first rider in this generation to test whether you can sustain both at the 450 level without one consuming the other. His style will either thrive or implode on a 450. He rides forward, commits to lines early, and sends jumps with the kind of confidence that either results in a hole shot or a yard sale. On a 250, that aggression worked because the bike was forgiving enough to recover mid-mistake. On a 450, mistakes are slower to correct, and the pack is less forgiving. If he adapts, he could podium regularly. If he doesn't, if he rides every lap like it's a highlight reel, he'll crash out of contention and spend more time on Instagram explaining injuries than celebrating wins. Haiden Deegan is the prototype for what motocross looks like when media and motorsport merge completely. He's proof that you can build a career before you win a championship, that personality can generate income independent of results, and that the next generation of riders won't just train in the gym, they'll train in front of cameras. Whether that makes him a better racer or just a more famous one depends entirely on how he handles the next 2 seasons. The 450 class doesn't care about your Instagram followers. It cares if you can hold a line in the whoops when your arms are cooked and someone's trying to stuff you in the next corner. Heiden's about to find out if he can do both. If you want to see how another rider carried impossible expectations and changed the sport forever, watch The Rider Who Redefined Motocross Forever. James Stewart next. Because before Haiden had Instagram, Bubba had speed that broke physics. And if you're here for real moto breakdowns without the fluff, subscribe so you don't miss the next one.